The last stand begins. The ground shook with every explosion. Smoke rose into the orange sky of the dying planet. Buildings had fallen. The alien warriors were scattered, dead or dying. Only one remained. Siraka, the last of her squad, stood in the middle of the burning outpost. Her armor was cracked, her breathing hard. Her blue skin was marked with dust and blood. Her energy blade flickered weakly in her hand. Her legs trembled, but she refused to fall. She looked around. 5 enemy raiders surrounded her. They were tall, machine-covered beasts with glowing red eyes and metal claws. They moved slowly like they knew she had no strength left. Siraka growled under her breath. "You want this? Come take it." She held the glowing relic close to her chest. It was small, shaped like a stone heart, but it pulsed with ancient power. It was the last hope for her people. One of the raiders lunged. She dodged barely in time, swinging her blade across its chest. Sparks flew, but it wasn't enough. Another grabbed her by the arm and slammed her against a wall. Her blade fell from her hand. She screamed in pain. They were going to kill her. No, worse. They would take the relic, destroy what was left of her culture, and walk away without a second thought. She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry. Mother. Father. I tried." Then a sound cut through the battlefield. Not metal. Not monster. A gunshot. Sharp, precise. Human. The raider holding her let go, and dropped dead with a hole in its head. Siraka fell to the ground, coughing. Her eyes opened. She looked up through the dust and fire. A figure stepped forward from the shadows. Tall, wounded, dirty, but calm. Human. He wore mismatched armor, patched and burned in places. His rifle was old but steady. He aimed it at the remaining raiders like he had done this 1,000 times. "Get down," he said quietly. Siraka rolled behind a broken wall just as the man fired again. 2 more raiders dropped. The last ones charged at him, roaring. The human didn't move fast. He moved smart. Every bullet hit its target. In seconds, all 5 were dead. Silence returned. Siraka stared at the man as he walked toward her. His face was tired, with a small scar over his right eye, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He knelt beside her and held out a small injector. "Painkiller," he said. "Take it. You'll need your strength." She hesitated. "Why help me? You're human." He smirked a little. "You're not the first I've helped. Might not be the last." She took the injector and pressed it into her arm. Warmth spread through her body. The pain faded a little. The human sat beside her, reloading his rifle. "Name's Reed. You?" "Siraka," she said softly. "Warrior of Clan Veltari, or what's left of it." He nodded. "You fought well, but you're not alone anymore." Her chest tightened. She hadn't heard those words in so long, not since her brother died in the first wave. She looked at him closely now. His armor had an old symbol, faded, of the Terran Rangers. He must have been part of a special unit. But what was he doing here alone? "Where's your unit?" she asked. "Dead, like yours." A cold wind blew across the ruined outpost. The suns were setting. Shadows grew longer. Siraka looked at the relic in her hand. It still glowed, but dimly. "They'll come back," she said. "More of them." Reed nodded again. "Then we get moving. I saw tunnels under the base. We can hide there." Siraka didn't move. He looked at her. "You want to die here?" She clenched her fist. "No." He stood and reached out his hand. "Then let's go." She looked at the hand for a second, then she grabbed it and pulled herself up. Her legs still shook, but she stood tall. Together, they walked toward the shattered floor that led to the tunnels. Behind them, the dead lay silent. The war was far from over. But for the first time, Siraka wasn't alone. Not anymore. The human, with no unit, the old tunnels were silent until Siraka screamed, not in pain, in shock. She had tripped over something in the dark. When Reed turned back, his light caught the shape of a body, partially eaten, eyes frozen open in fear. "That's not one of yours," Reed said, crouching down. Siraka covered her mouth. It's one of the scouts. My people sent him to find help last week." Reed checked the man's weapon. Still fully loaded. That meant he never got the chance to fight. "Whatever did this," Reed whispered, "didn't leave a mark on the armor. Just went straight for the neck, clean." Siraka looked around. "We're not alone down here." Reed quietly raised his gun. The tunnels were from another age, ancient, built by aliens long before either of their species came to this world. The air was thick. The walls were curved, almost breathing. Strange lights pulsed behind crystal panels. As they moved deeper, Siraka walked closer to Reed. "You didn't answer me before," she said. "Why are you even here?" Reed didn't. "Stop walking." Crash landed. My dropship was hit during an orbital skirmish, no comms, no support. Just me and whatever I could carry. He glanced back. "Same as you, right?" Siraka hesitated. "No, I came here by choice." That surprised him. "I was chosen as the relic guardian," she explained. "They said only warriors from pure bloodlines could protect it, but I think they just didn't want to risk anyone important." She laughed bitterly. "Maybe they knew it was a suicide mission." Reed frowned. "They sent you alone?" "They sent a team, but they're all dead now." They stopped at a collapsed door. Reed dug through his pack, pulling out a compact tool. "Stand back." Sparks flew as he cut through old metal. Siraka's hand drifted to her blade, though it still flickered weakly. "Your tech. It's old." "It's human," Reed replied, grinning. "But it still works." The door gave way, revealing a wide chamber filled with strange machines. One glowed faintly in the corner, an energy console still active after all these years. Siraka stepped inside first. "This place, it's a laboratory." Reed knelt and brushed dust off a broken sign. It was in 2 languages. One was alien, the other human English. Terra Exo genetic program. Classified. "Wait," he said. "This is human tech. We were here together?" Siraka looked puzzled. "I thought humans came to this world only after the Zarn War." Reed stared at the walls, at the machines built by both species. "No, we've been here before. Long before that war." Something moved. Both turned sharply. In the shadows, something crawled across the wall, too fast to see clearly. Siraka's hand tightened on her blade. Reed raised his rifle. "Eyes forward. We've got company." A long silence. Then, a sound like laughter. Twisted and echoing. Whatever was down, here didn't just want to kill, it wanted to play first. They backed into the lab. Siraka looked at Reed. "Tell me the truth. You're not just a soldier, are you?" He paused. "No," he said finally. "I was special recon. Black Ops. We handled things that weren't supposed to exist." "Like what's crawling behind those walls?" She nodded. "Good. Because I'm not just a relic guard either." From her belt she pulled a small device. It unfolded into a glowing map of the underground base. "There's a safe chamber, 2 levels down. If we make it there, we can access old logs, maybe even call for help. And if this place is compromised, then we fight." A sudden shriek filled the air, inhuman and close. Reed grabbed Siraka's arm and pulled her behind a collapsed beam. "Move, now!" As they ran, the tunnel behind them exploded in sparks. A creature made of wires, metal, and bone burst out, its mouth wide, eyes glowing green. It wasn't alien. It wasn't human. It was something left behind, something forgotten. Siraka slashed at it with her blade, but the weapon barely left a scratch. Reed shot twice. Its arm fell off, but it kept coming. They dove through a broken hatch and sealed it behind them. The metal groaned under the pressure of the creature's claws. Breathing heavily, Siraka slid down the wall. "What is that thing?" Reed looked grim. "A mistake. Probably ours. They sat in silence, the door shaking behind them. Finally, Soraka whispered, "You saved me again." Reed didn't smile this time. "We save each other now. That's the deal." Echoes in the tunnel. The walls were breathing. Or at least, that's how it felt. Soraka placed her palm on the stone-like surface. It pulsed under her hand. Soft. Warm. Alive. She pulled her hand back quickly. "This place was built wrong," she whispered. "No lab should feel alive." Reed didn't answer. He was busy setting up small traps, old human tech, motion grenades, and flash wires. He glanced over his shoulder. "It's not the place," he said. "It's what they were doing down here. Some of the first joint human-alien projects weren't for peace. They were for control." Soraka turned her head. "Control of what?" He looked up. "Life." A distant clang echoed from the far end of the tunnel. Both froze. "That thing's not done with us," Reed said. They had sealed the last hatch behind them, but it was only a delay. The monster, whatever it was clever. It didn't just attack. It stalked. As they moved deeper, they passed rows of shattered glass tanks. Some were full of dried liquid. Others still had floating bones. Human shapes. Alien shapes. Mixed. Soraka's throat went dry. They were making hybrids. Reed nodded grimly. Some were probably weaponized. Not all experiments were legal. We buried projects like this when they got out of hand. Another tank glowed faintly. Inside it floated a tiny creature, part flesh, part machine, its single eye still moving. It blinked at them. Soraka took a step back. "It's alive." "No," Reed said. "It's awake." He raised his gun and fired. The tank shattered, and the liquid hissed as it hit the floor. The thing inside melted instantly, shrieking in a high pitch that echoed for several long seconds. "Too risky," Reed said. "If it screamed, others might come." Soraka stared at him. "You shoot fast." He glanced at her. "You hesitate." She narrowed her eyes but didn't argue. Suddenly, a nearby wall panel clicked and opened on its own. A voice spoke from inside, broken and glitchy but still speaking in an ancient dialect. "Project Alpha, breach, alert, survivors, located." Reed's face turned pale. "It's scanning us." "Can it see us?" Soraka asked, backing up. "Worse. It knows us." From behind the walls, the metallic screech of claws scraped forward. The echo multiplied. Not one. Not two. Many. "We're trapped," Soraka whispered. Reed pulled her close and pointed at the old maintenance shaft nearby. "Not yet." They climbed through tight pipes, their boots slipping on damp cables. Soraka's breathing grew heavier. "I hear them. They're inside the walls," she gasped. Reed held his flashlight between his teeth and kept climbing. "Just keep going, don't stop." Suddenly something grabbed Soraka's ankle. She screamed. Reed turned, shot once. Metal burst from the thing's face. It fell back into the dark. He reached out and yanked Soraka upward. She clung to him, her hands shaking. I thought. "You're fine," Reed said. "But next time, climb faster." They reached a narrow room filled with broken consoles and glowing panels. A single working screen displayed ancient logs. Soraka moved toward it. "This is it, the safe room I mentioned." She tapped the controls and a hologram flickered on. Two scientists, one human, one alien, speaking in hushed voices. "If the hybrid escapes, no one must know. We built too much hate into it. It won't serve. It will kill." Soraka swallowed. "That's the thing hunting us. It's the result of their hate." Reed stared at the screen, then down at Soraka. "Then we do what they couldn't. Stop it?" He shook his head. "Kill it." Suddenly a vent above them hissed open, and something dropped into the room. Soraka barely rolled away in time. The hybrid creature stood tall, twisted, its body covered in wires and bone plates. Its face shifted between alien and human features, like it couldn't decide what it was. Reed shouted, "Now!" He and Soraka attacked together, gunfire and blade. The creature dodged fast, throwing Soraka against a console. Reed landed a shot to its chest, but it healed instantly. Siraka stood bleeding. "We can't win in here." Reed pulled a grenade from his belt. "We don't need to win, just slow it down." He threw the grenade under the creature's feet. Boom! The explosion blinded the monster for seconds. Reed grabbed Siraka's hand. "Come on, this way!" They fled through a side door, locking it behind them. The creature screamed in rage, slamming into the sealed metal. They fell to the floor in the next corridor, gasping. Siraka looked at Reed, bruised and coughing. And then, she smiled. "We fight well. Together." Reed smirked back. "Told you, you're not alone." The betrayal above. The signal came from the stars, but hope didn't. Reed stared at the old console, watching a blinking blue dot on the screen. There's a ship in orbit," he said. "It just pinged the emergency beacon." Siraka's tired eyes widened. "Rescue?" He frowned. Maybe. The creature was still pounding on the door behind them, weaker now, but still there. Still hunting. They had no time. If that ship left without checking the surface, they'd be buried with this monster forever. Siraka took the headset and spoke into it. Voice rough but strong. "This is Siraka of Clan Veltari. I have the relic. I am alive. I request immediate extraction." There was a long pause. Then a cold voice replied. "Acknowledged. Landing coordinates received. Prepare for pickup." Siraka smiled. "They're coming." But Reed didn't look happy. That voice didn't sound like a rescue team. They climbed out through an old access shaft. The suns had risen again, 2 yellow orbs lighting the broken world. Wind blew ash across the battlefield. The outpost was quiet now. Empty. Until the shuttle landed. It came down fast, sleek and military, but not human. It bore the sigil of the Veltari High Council. Siraka stood tall as the doors opened. They listened. 3 armored soldiers stepped out. One of them removed her helmet, an older Veltari woman with sharp features. "Commander." "Valera," Siraka whispered. "My aunt." Valera walked forward slowly. "Siraka, you survived." Siraka smiled. "And I have the relic." She handed it over carefully. Valera took it, staring at it like it was treasure. "Excellent," Valera said. "That makes this much easier." Siraka's smile faded. "What?" 2 soldiers raised their rifles. Reed stepped forward instantly, weapon raised. "I don't like this." Valera looked at him with disgust. "A human? You allied with a human?" "He saved my life. Twice," Siraka said, stepping in front of Reed. "He's the reason I'm standing here." Valera's voice turned cold. "Then you're a disgrace." She motioned to her soldiers. "Take the relic. Kill the rest." Siraka's heart dropped. "What? No, you can't." But it was too late. The soldiers opened fire. Reed tackled Siraka down behind a metal crate. "The shots missed by inches. I told you something was off," Reed growled. "They betrayed us, my own people." Siraka cried. They scrambled through the ruins as plasma bolts tore the ground. The shuttle crew had orders to kill. This was no rescue, it was a cleanup. "They don't want the relic shared," Reed said, ducking behind a wall. "They want to hide whatever was buried here. We need to get underground again," Siraka said. Reed nodded. "And make them regret ever coming." They returned to the tunnels, dodging patrols and blasts. Siraka's hands shook, not from fear, but rage. "I was nothing to them," she whispered. "Just a tool." Reed placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then it's time you break the tool and become the weapon." They reached the lab again, but it wasn't empty anymore. The hybrid creature was gone. The broken door lay open. Siraka checked. The logs. "It's heading to the surface." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Then let it meet our betrayers." Outside, the soldiers scanned the area. Valera held the relic tightly. "No sign of Siraka or the human. They'll die in the tunnels." Suddenly, a scream came from behind them. One of the guards was lifted into the air, his body snapped in half. The hybrid had arrived. It tore through them like shadows in fire. Valera shouted for retreat, but the creature was too fast. Siraka and Reed watched from above. This is our chance, Reed said. We let them die. We let it choose. Down below, Velera turned and saw Siraka. You let it here? She shouted. Siraka stood tall. No, you did. When you chose to betray your own. The hybrid looked at Siraka, paused, then turned its attention to the others again. Velera screamed as it lunged. Siraka and Reed ran, leaving the chaos behind. When they stopped to rest, Siraka looked at Reed, breathing hard. I don't know. What's next? Reed looked at the horizon. Then we make it up as we go. She smiled weakly. Together? He nodded. Together. Blood and fire at dawn. The sunrise wasn't golden. It was red. Ash rained from the sky like snow. The ground was shaking. Fires burned across the horizon. The outpost, once full of life and warriors, was now a graveyard. Siraka stood on the edge of the cliff, blood on her face, hair wild in the wind. The relic was back in her hands. Behind her, the world burned. Reed joined her slowly, limping from an injury. His shoulder was bandaged with strips torn from his own uniform. He looked out. Looks like hell. Siraka didn't smile. It is. They had survived betrayal. They had escaped the monster. But now more enemy ships were landing, raiders, mercenaries, and worse. They weren't just after the relic anymore, they were after them. How many? She asked. Reed checked his scope. Too many. They both knew this might be their final stand. Reed knelt and began placing explosives along the edge of the ridge. If they want this place, they'll have to crawl over rubble and blood. Siraka helped. She planted tripwires and blade traps she'd scavenged from fallen Veltari. Side by side, they turned the battlefield into a trap. Do you regret staying with me? She asked. Reed tightened a bolt. No, Siraka paused. Even if we die today? Reed finally looked at her. We die fighting. That's enough. They found shelter in a ruined tower. There, Siraka took off her chest, armor, and revealed deep bruises and burns. Reed handed her a med pack. She winced as she applied it. What do humans fight for? He thought for a moment. Each other. We don't care about bloodlines or relics, just survival. She nodded. That's what I want now. Not to protect history, but you. Reed looked at her, surprised. Then, the ground trembled. Siraka and Reed ran to the ridge and saw the dust clouds rise. Enemies approaching fast. At least 50, armed and armored, Siraka whispered. So this is how it ends. Reed loaded his rifle. Let's give them a story to tell. The battle started with silence. The enemy scouts approached carefully, but when one crossed a wire, boom, a fire trap exploded, then another. The invaders screamed in confusion. And then, Siraka jumped from the tower, blade flashing, rage in her eyes. She struck with fury, taking down 3 before rolling behind cover. Reed shot from above, picking off targets one by one with perfect aim, but the wave didn't stop. Reed's ammo ran low. Siraka's blade cracked. She fell once, scraped her leg, but stood again. Reed jumped down beside her. I've got your back. Good, she panted. I'll take the front. Together they moved like one. He covered her blind spots. She protected his flanks. Enemies fell one after another, but still more came. Then, boom, a missile struck the tower behind them. Fire rained from the sky. Both were thrown into the dust. Reed's ears rang. He rolled. Over coughing, blood in his mouth, Siraka was face down, not moving. He crawled to her. Siraka, no. Her eyes opened slowly. Still. Not alone, she whispered. Reed laughed through the pain. Damn right. As more enemies charged, Reed stood up, shaking, barely holding his rifle. This ends now. He raised a detonator. Siraka looked at him. The whole ridge? He nodded. They don't get this. Place. She took his hand. Together they pressed the button. Boom. The world lit up. Fire tore across the ridge, collapsing stone and burning everything in its path. Smoke covered the battlefield. Silence returned. And from the rubble, 2 shadows rose. Bloody. Burned. Alive. They had survived. Again. But this time, the enemy didn't. The awakening power. The relic pulsed, not with light, but with heartbeat. Soraka felt it first. As she pulled Reed's body from the broken edge of the ridge, the relic in her pouch began to glow stronger than ever before, not warm like before, but hot. Alive. Angry. Reed was slipping in and out of consciousness. His lips were dry, face pale. Blood soaked his side where shrapnel had torn through his armor. "Stay with me," she shouted, shaking him gently. He smiled faintly. "Still. Not alone. Right?" "No," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Never again." She dragged him across the ruined field, every step harder than the last. The enemy forces were gone, dead or buried in fire, but the hybrid creature might still be lurking. And Reed didn't have long. Her only choice? The relic. She took shelter inside an old temple chamber once buried beneath the outpost. The walls were covered in carvings, half human, half Veltari. It looked ancient, but untouched. In the center stood a pedestal. Soraka placed the relic on it. As soon as it touched, the room breathed. Lights in the walls lit up. Symbols glowed. The relic rose into the air, spinning slowly. Soraka ran to Reed. "Hold on, just a little more." The relic shot out beams of light that touched both of them, her and him. They floated for a moment, suspended in a strange glow. And then, the visions came. Soraka saw ancient warriors, human and alien, fighting side by side. She saw the first experiments, the building of the tunnels, the betrayal that followed. And then she saw something new. The relic didn't choose races. It chose bonded souls, two warriors who would fight for each other, no matter what. That's what activated its full power. When she woke, she gasped. Reed was breathing. His wounds had closed. He looked stronger, healthier. He opened his eyes. What happened? Soraka looked at her hands. They were glowing faintly. The relic healed us. Not just healed, it linked us. Reed sat up confused. Linked? She nodded slowly. I feel you. Inside me. Like your heartbeat is mine now. Reed touched his chest. I feel calm. Like I've known you forever. The relic floated down, dimming again. Its power spent, for now. Suddenly, the temple door creaked open, and there stood the hybrid, burned, broken, but still standing. Its single glowing eye stared at them, but this time, it didn't attack. It stepped forward slowly, almost like a child approaching its parents. Soraka stepped in front of Reed, blade ready, but the creature kneeled. It placed its claw on the ground and bowed. Reed whispered, It's surrendering. Soraka didn't lower her blade. Or it's choosing. Reed looked at the creature. The relic bonded us. Maybe it sees that. Maybe it understands. The creature looked at Soraka, then at Reed, then back at the relic. It reached out slowly, and the relic floated toward it. But instead of burning, it merged into the creature's chest. Its body changed, less twisted, more balanced. Less weapon, more protector. Soraka backed away. What does this mean? Reed stood beside her. It means we just gained a new ally. The creature let out a low, calm growl and stepped back, guarding the entrance. Reed turned to Soraka. We're going to end it. Together. Soraka nodded, still shaken. You and me, Reed smiled. And our new friend, I guess. For the first time in days, Soraka laughed. I never thought I'd be standing between a human and a hybrid, calling both my allies. He smirked. Welcome to my weird life. But deep down they both knew. This was just the beginning. A human, an alien warrior, and a former enemy now bound together. The relic had awakened more than just power. It had awakened purpose. From warriors to legends, the stars remembered what the world tried to forget. Long after the battle smoke faded, long after the bodies were buried beneath ash and stone. Two names continued to echo through the galaxies: Siraka of Veltari and Reed of Terra. But before the legends, there was only silence. Siraka sat quietly beside a fire inside a hidden cave watching Reed sleep. The hybrid creature, now calmer, almost gentle, stood guard outside like a silent statue. They had not seen another enemy for days, but Siraka knew the peace was temporary. The relic's final message still rang in her ears. Protect the bond. The galaxy needs it. She glanced at Reed, his face peaceful, no longer pained. His chest rose and fell in a rhythm she could now feel in her own body. When he woke, he sat up slowly. Are we still alive? Siraka smirked. Unfortunately, yes. He chuckled, rubbing his eyes. And the monster? Sleeping less than you, she said, nodding toward the entrance. Reed stood and walked to the edge of the cave. The morning light spilled across the burnt land, and in the distance, faint flashes of ships arriving. Not enemies this time. Looks like we've got company, he said. Hours later, a mix of human and Veltari forces arrived at the site. Cautious, unsure of what they'd find. What they found was history rewritten. They expected a war zone. They found a trio standing together, a human, a Veltari warrior, and a hybrid once built for destruction. The commanders didn't know whether to salute or aim. Siraka stepped forward first. This war is over, because we ended it here, not with fire, but with trust. Some didn't believe it. Some were afraid. But then the relic, resting now in Siraka's hands, glowed once again. A gentle light, a pulse that synced with both humans and aliens nearby. Proof. A new alliance began that day, and at the center of it stood two warriors who should have died, but didn't. Who should have been enemies, but chose not to be. Who stood back to back when the world tried to crush them. Weeks later, back on a neutral space station, Siraka walked the hallways in full armor, no longer exiled, no longer ignored. Now she was called Commander. Reed walked beside her in a black uniform, his badge marked with a symbol newly created. Two joined hands, one human, one alien. He smirked. Commander now, huh? She rolled her eyes. You're not far behind, Captain. They entered the council room together. Dozens of leaders stood as they walked in. Siraka placed the relic in the center of the table. This is not a weapon, she said. This is a reminder. That unity, real unity, cost blood, scars, and sacrifice, and we paid it. Reed added, we fought for each other, and we won. If we want peace, that's the only way forward. No one argued. How could they? The stories had already spread. Soldiers whispered about the last stand of the bonded two. Civilians passed tales of the Red Dawn battle, and how one alien girl and one human man changed everything. They became more than warriors. They became a symbol. Much later, children on both Earth and Veltari worlds would play games in the streets pretending to be Siraka or Reed. Museums would display the melted piece of the hybrid's armor. Songs would be written, statues would be carved, but the real heroes? They chose to stay quiet. They lived on a peaceful moon far from the center of war, a place where stars shone clearly every night, and silence no longer meant fear, but peace. 1. Night. Siraka stood outside watching the sky. Reed walked up and wrapped his arms around her. She leaned back into him. Did we really change anything? Reed smiled softly. We changed everything. And above them, two stars blinked side by side, bonded forever,